And we're back with another one. And
Yaparoni.
My name's Derek. I'm her big brother.
I'm Aimee. I'm the little sister.
And we thought we would document our perspective in case our kids ever wanted to know answers and our perspectives about who we were and how we were, especially if we're not around to tell them the stories ourselves. We can somewhat speak to the future version of our children and let them know a little bit of information. And today we're going to start off our episode with asking you about who you are voting for. Now that we have one debate between Kamala and Trump in the books.
Yeah.
And have you been persuaded? Your prior perspective was you were going to wait until your algorithm, I suppose, more TikTok and the gram or
like TikTok and Twitter and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. How they would influence you. Twitter seems to be more Trump dominant, but your algorithm might be unique. Have you been persuaded into who you would be voting for come November?
I'm still kind of up in the air, but I think I'm leaning more. I feel like they both are trying so hard to say the right thing. I just don't want to vote for a liar. So that makes me nervous. So I might be leaning more towards like Kamala because I don't think she's lying that much. But I don't know because I still hear her lie too. So
yeah, there was
Trump's still in the race though.
So what percentage would you be Kamala versus Trump at this point?
So I want to say I'm maybe 60-40.
60-40?
Yeah. Whereas before it was like 50-50. I'm probably like 60-40 right now.
Yeah. Do any memes stand out to you as far as ones that kind of maybe have hit you? Because you said you're going to be algorithm based.
Yeah.
So naturally, when you're based on an algorithm, the memes are going to have a heavier influence over you and how you think. So like sometimes a meme will just stick in my brain. Oh, for whatever reason, that one is the one that seems to be a dominating narrative in my brain.
Yeah. Like the where they're talking about I've seen a meme where it takes Trump, like when he's in the debate and he's talking about, Kamala asks him, so what's your plan? And he's like, I have a plan. My plan is to do better than what's going on right now. He's talking about the Obamacare.
Yeah.
And it's like the meme is like, when my husband asks me how I plan to save money at Target, and it's like, I have a plan. I have a plan to do better than the way things are going right now. Well, but what is it? Just to do better. Like, I think that one's funny. Or the dogs and cats being eaten one. I've seen a bunch of the videos of the cats and the dogs, and they're like, running around or like doing stuff, and it's like the cats are running away from the people in Haiti. Or not Haiti, the people in Springfield.
Yeah.
People from Haiti.
Yeah, I think the ones that seem to dominate my algorithm in my feeds would be more so around the ones mocking her for her saying like, turn the page or hey, everything I'm going to do the first day I'm in office or how there's going to be this new change. And everybody's like,
you're in office
right now. So
I've seen a lot of those too. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so then after my impression after the debate was like, hey, I'm watching two liars, and which liar would I rather choose? I didn't get a non-liar vibe from Kamala.
I just feel like they're both liars.
Yeah. So what I would pick up, so Trump would say things like this. He would say, if I was in office, something wouldn't happen. And of course, I'm logical oriented, so I'm like, that's a crazy thing. Often what I'm listening for when I'm speaking to anybody or when I'm watching anything is falsifiability. And that just means, how could you falsify such a claim? And if you cannot falsify it, so if he's saying what wouldn't have happened if he was in charge, again, Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine, whatever, Israel and Gaza and Hamas and all this stuff wouldn't have happened. I'm like, what? I feel like anybody who actually believes those things makes me feel like, okay, how can that be persuasive to you? How can that be meaningful?
Sometimes I do believe him just a little, because I do feel like he was a little like erratic. Like, people didn't really want to do anything because they felt like he would pull the trigger real fast.
Which I wrestle with correlation and causation. Is it caused of him, or it happened to be during that time period? They weren't, people around the world weren't really, really active. I think her things were, I feel like she was repeating hoaxes and things that were already found to not be true. And so then, like, of course, he was doing the cats and dogs thing, which was like also like, hey, what are your sources for some of these things? Anyway, as we contextualize it for our kids, I know I expressed it to our friend. I said, I don't see how I could support any one of these people.
It's so hard.
With a good conscience, which again, there's this Christian concept called vote your conscience. Like if your conscience is violated, a lot of Christians have the perspective of, especially around pro-life, which again, Trump's kind of soft in his pro-life position.
I figured his position's is similar to yours.
Well, he said he made exceptions for it, and where I still have a wrestling match with it. It's more like, I guess I could repeat it here. I
think it's similar.
It's not. It's like I like the idea of it being of somebody dissuading them from getting the abortion, like exam, like to dissuade them because of the law or whatever. Like I think I'm on board with that, but the idea of people going to do an operation illegally, back alley, hanger, all these other like horrific things. Like if somebody's going to do something, do you want them to do it in a safe way, or do you just want them to do it, however? So anyway, but his position, a lot of the people that are much more strong on pro-life, for him, they felt like he backed down from what would be a stronger position. But even the data that I was looking up is like most of the country is more pro-choice. From at least some of the polls that have been taken over the last few years.
Especially like I read a lot of those Reddits, right? And a lot of the women are like, it's not like a thing, the pro-choice, like everybody has pro-choice over here. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
They're like, it's a basic human right. They don't even, like it's not a thing in other places as big as it is here.
And so, again, to contextualize it with our kids are looking and wondering, hey, do their parents vote? Do their parents have a position? Or do their parents have more, are they aligned more with one policy versus another? If they're asking those types of questions, I think I almost feel like I am almost going, hey, I don't know if I'm going to play any of this game. And I think whenever emotionally I'm like bothered by something, like by one candidate doing this or one candidate doing that, I feel like it's time for me to not be involved, because I don't know if this changes anything meaningful in the lives of the people that I care most about.
Mm-hmm. I think it does make a difference.
Do you?
Well, I think things are not going great right now.
Yeah, I wonder why. Who do you blame for this? No.
It's so hard because I think I've had this conversation before too. I don't know if the things that happen during a president's term have like a direct link to the previous president's term. Like I always wonder, like, is every president just dealing with the aftermath of the president before them?
And then where do you start?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Like, is it Obama's fault from, what is it, for 16 years ago, 15 years ago? Is it Trump's fault from 4 years ago?
I wonder, like, I always tell myself, well, I feel like you need 8 years to really know. Because then that's how I feel like. Maybe the first term, they're kind of dealing with whatever happened before them. But by their second term, it's their own mess that they're cleaning up or dealing with, So, but I don't know. I think I was looking, Jeremy's been doing like history, and he was like telling me about different things, and then I was like, man, that just doesn't give me any confidence at all. I don't know what to think, I don't know if when Obama was in term, he was dealing with other stuff, because I think he had problems in his second term also. So it was like, oh, I don't know where the problems came from, So that's how I feel. I do think that like what happens during your term makes a big difference. I don't feel like I pay attention enough to what's going on. Like I don't like watch the news and stuff, so I have no idea what's going on, but I do feel like, grocery prices are crazy.
So who do you blame for that? Do you have a percentage of? Do you blame more the Democratic side, the liberal side, the conservative side?
Definitely, I think it's more the Democrat side.
That you're blaming?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, because Biden's the one in office right now.
Yeah.
And like this is where my standpoint is at. And this is people could think that I'm wrong or whatever, but I feel like people underestimate the reason for being in support of like businesses. A lot of people didn't like Trump or didn't like what he was doing because he was giving a lot of tax breaks to a lot of businesses. And I think giving to the people who already know how to make businesses work and who already like are doing this, that creates economy, which creates jobs, which has more people working, which makes the economy better. So I think that like the Democrats, what they're doing more is they're trying to give a lot more help to poor people and to like, to like middle class and lower, like, poor people. And I think that all of that, yeah, like it's helping, but there's a difference between a hand up and a handout. So I think we're doing a lot more handouts than we are like actually investing into our economy to create better jobs, to create better people. We're just enabling the people who are keeping things down right now, and that's what's bringing down our economy. So, because there's now less jobs, because they're making it harder for all the business people, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, I think if I was giving a message to my son, I'd be like, yeah, like, can you... I find myself wrestling with the net benefit of being informed, of being involved, with being emotionally invested, and especially I think about the people who will refuse to give an opinion based on their job or their position or their work or their company, saying, hey, like, is it better if I'm a business owner to not mention who I'm voting for, who I support, and all of that? And I certainly have conversations with people offline about who they support, but then when I watch them online, you'll never see kind of where they align or whatever. Like,
yeah.
It's very if we're gonna use the conversation I've had with lawyers, that kind of use the analogy of there's a LeBron James approach, which is a very vocal about different activities that were happening in the community or socially, and then there's the Michael Jordan, where you almost never knew who he was voting for or where he was aligned. So I think for a period of time, I definitely aligned more with Michael Jordan, but now I think it's more I'm comfortable having conversations and asking people their perspective. So if my son was asking, hey, how did you approach this thing? I would say everything with character. So let me break this down real quick. So the president won't help you, won't make you be more honest or less honest. It won't make you be more humble or less humble. It won't make you be more compassionate or less compassionate. It won't help you to have better friendships. It won't help you to be more disciplined. So all of those things, like, don't think any person in office or any party that's whatever manning the administration and coordinating things, they're not going to help you build a better character. You're responsible for that. So don't think they're going to save you or rescue you from whatever your situation is. You got to have the character to ultimately move forward and progress and grow, independent of whoever is in office. And oftentimes, at least in my lifetime, it seems to just go 4 years this way or 8 years that way. And so there's going to be a period of time where the person that you actually prefer, the party you prefer, is not in office. So how will you operate as a man when the person that you prefer to be in office is not in office and the party that you prefer to be in office is not in office? And I think all of those things come back to character. So that's where I kind of go, does it matter? And for those of us who are on the Christian side of it, it's like, is Jesus still on the throne? If Trump wins and the Republicans, go in office, is Jesus still on the throne for me and in my world? And I'm doing my part to keep Jesus on the throne, to keep Jesus Lord. If the liberals win and Kamala is the president, is Jesus still on the throne? And is Jesus still Lord in my life and in my world, and trying to make the impact that I want to make, independent of who's in office? So if I were to say a percentage is a percentage of impact on my life, or maybe even on my son's life, I'm saying it's a less than 1% impact as far as what happens with us and to us, and more about the decisions we make.
With what we're given. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I need you to disagree. I need you to fight against what your brother tells you and not go along with what I'm saying.
Well, let's just say, where's your percentage as far as who you're going to vote for?
I am 80% not voting, 19% Trump, 1% Kamala.
Okay.
Dispute that. What do you got to say about that?
I didn't know that was an option. Because I'm up in the air about voting too, but I really think that it doesn't matter what we do anyways. We live in Texas. Odds are is everybody is going to go vote out and vote, and we're going to end up on the Republican side anyways.
One of my good friends did tell me, on principle, you should vote, which...
Well, that's what I'm saying too. Like, I think we should, but...
But why? What would be your explanation? So your sons ask you, Mom, should I vote? And if you say yes, why would you encourage them to vote? Why is there a should there?
I think I've said this in the past. There's people in other countries who don't get the option. So I think because we're given the opportunity, we should at least exhaust that opportunity for other people in the world who are not able to do that.
But then would that conclude that any opportunity you have that other people don't have, you should do it?
I think you should do whatever you want to do. Like, I think, because I've thought about that before. Like, I've heard people say, like, "Oh, well, people in other countries don't have
toxic and poison is the thing. For you to say people should do whatever they want to do, like. I know there's too much evil inside of people for them to do what they want to do. So, like, this idea that people would actually choose good if they just did what they wanted to do. They don't do that. People don't do good things.
That's true.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead. I wanted to interrupt you quick.
No, yes. So, like, people in other countries, people here have said, I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, well, people in other countries don't have that much food, so you should always finish all the food on your plate. And it's like...
Right, which I don't ascribe to, but go ahead.
But it's like, okay, just because, that's how things are going. Like, I have the option. I have the option to finish all the food on my plate or not. Like, they don't have the option. So, like, they don't have any food. So, like, I should be able to make whatever choice I want as far as that, and this is such a small thing, like, to say, but, that goes into so many other things, like women can't go to school, like, all these things. So it's like, but like I'm saying, like, you have the option to do those things, and you should be able to, like, freely exhaust that option if you want to.
Yeah, be able to is different from should, though.
Yeah.
So that's why you had given the message to your kids in this hypothetical. You're saying you should vote, and then you're saying why other people don't have the option to. But then you just said, like...
But yeah, like, so I'm kind of up in the air about it too. Like, you should do it if that's something that you feel like you want to do, because other people don't have that option. It's not like I'm...
But you combining a should statement with if you want statement are two different things.
Yeah.
Saying you should tell the truth if you want to. No, you should tell the truth even if you don't want to.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
I mean, again, with a few, exceptions. But no, I'm glad we're having a conversation. And I think the vision for the podcast is not to always agree with one another and be able to challenge each other's thoughts like we would have in a conversation over lunch. Okay, so I did want to ask ChatGPT something, and there's the mechanism in ChatGPT. Have you messed with this where you can speak to it audibly and then it gives you the audio answer back?
No.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask it about, let me see if I get this right. Okay, I'm going to ask it about my friend saying that I should vote on principle even if I just write his name in, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, I voted, but I didn't vote for any of the leading candidates. I voted for some offshoot person. Okay, but I'm curious, ChatGPT's perspective. How many reasons do you want us to give as far as why somebody should vote on principle? I'm going to ask it for a couple of reasons. Should I go 3, 4?
3.
Okay.
Concise.
Recently, I was talking to a friend about voting. Can you hear it?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I was talking to him about voting, and I told him I was hesitant to vote for Kamala Harris, and I was hesitant to vote for Donald Trump, and I was thinking about not voting at all. But he said you should vote on principle. I want you to tell me 3 reasons on why I should vote on principle.
Voting on principle can be important for several reasons. First, it allows you to align your actions with your core values. By voting based on principle, you are making a choice that reflects your beliefs, even if it feels like no candidate perfectly matches them. Second, it contributes to the integrity of the democratic process. When you vote based on your principles, you send a message that policies and values matter more than party loyalty or personalities, potentially encouraging better candidates in the future. Third, voting on principle can have long-term effects. Even if the candidate you choose doesn't win, your vote can influence the direction of public debate and signal what matters to voters like you, paving the way for changes in the future. Does any of that resonate with you?
You?
No.
Not with me.
If you want to talk more about it, feel free to reach out.
Not necessarily based on your principles, on principle. I think he's confused.
I think the first answer was about voting in a way that aligns with your. I wonder if he's thinking about voting on policies and local issues as opposed to presidential situations.
Yeah. Yeah, because Diamond told me that they're digging a big old hole in the neighborhood and that they're going to put a playground there. So she says we have to vote on it. But I do believe that vote is important for me to decide exactly what I want.
What do you want there?
So I think the choices are like a water aqua park, a regular trail park, nothing, a lot, and sending out money to a different neighborhood. Something like that, she said.
Which one do you want?
I don't know. The reason I'm kind of up in the air about it is because there's 2 houses that were for sale, like 2 plots of land that were for sale right there, and I'm looking for I really want to buy a plot of land right in the neighborhood. And some people already bought that plot of land, and now it's supposed to be right there across the street from the park. So now I'm a little bit salty. So I'm a little bit I don't want them to be near the park now. So that's a little evil of me. So a little piece of me is let it just be a giant pothole forever. so that y'all are not across the street from the park. But a little part of me is also maybe they'll put a parking lot right there.
But it would be close to where you live?
Yeah, super close.
So then you won't get a park for your kids?
No.
Just for your saltiness?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm probably 51-49 right now. 51, let it stay a hole. 49, I guess, yeah, we want a park.
Okay, let's bring it back to...
But I'll probably soften up later.
You brought up leveraging... we could have asked it for 3 other reasons that were more aligned. But I do want to think about...
Voting.
The idea of using your... opportunities you have that other countries don't?
Yeah.
Let me ask you about that real quick.
So
my sister and I were having a conversation about using the opportunities we have here in the United States of America that other people do not have. She brought up the example that in other countries you can't even vote. What are 3 or 4 other examples of opportunities we have here in the United States of America that other people don't have that maybe you wouldn't make the same conclusion that you should use the opportunity you have on principle because other people can't do it around the world?
That was confusing. Smart. Okay, I don't know how smart ChatGPT is. He's so smart he didn't even hear you.
Seems like it's thinking.
Yeah, because you confused it. I already told you.
Here are a few more opportunities in the United States that people in many other parts of the world might not have, which might make you reflect on how valuable those opportunities are. First, freedom of speech and expression. In the U.S., people have the right to speak their minds and criticize the government without fear of serious punishment. Second, access to education. While not perfect, the U.S. has a wide range of public and private schools, as well as scholarships and financial aid for higher education. In some parts of the world, access to education, especially for girls and marginalized groups, is severely limited. Third, the ability to start a business or pursue career choices. The U.S. offers a relatively supportive environment for entrepreneurship and professional growth. In some countries, rigid economic systems or corruption can make it nearly impossible for individuals to pursue their goals or rise out of poverty. These examples might not always lead you to the conclusion that you must use these opportunities because others don't have them, but they can still help you recognize the privileges and freedoms that exist here. How do you feel about that perspective?
He said, twice. I know he wasn't thinking.
It sounds like something was there a specific part of the conversation where he repeated it, or do you think it had a particular...
Okay. All right. So you haven't played around with that?
No, I don't do that.
You're young. You're just disregarding the AI revolution.
Yeah, I'm just out here ignoring everything.
Cool. Well, what he said was ultimately being in school. Are you in school right now?
No.
Are you rocking your own? I guess, do you count the restaurant as rocking your own business?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so that's an opportunity you're doing. Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else on who you vote for? So right now you're 60-40. I suppose we could do check-ins on your voting status.
Yeah.
You registered?
No, actually, I was going to go get the papers to get us all registered.
And are you and your household all aligned in your voting direction?
I know Mom's all, I hate Trump, blah, blah, blah.
Dang. I didn't ask you to tell her.
But I don't think that she really feels like that.
Yeah.
So she might be just doing it just to satisfy some people. Some people's voting wants. But we'll see.
To satisfy some people's voting wants? Some people...
Like, we talk about it in our family group chat sometimes. And I feel like the family is more leaning towards Kamala.
Why do you got to tell everybody on the internet? No, I'm just kidding.
Especially, like, there's so many, like, Gen Z of us in the family group chat that a lot of people are like, oh, more Kamala. But then it's like, okay, do we want to be more like, okay, do we want to be controversial and start having arguments in the family group chat? No, we don't. So that's how I feel. Because there's a lot of
I feel like
there's
I feel like there is two people, maybe one person. You'd be saying like my whole family connections are
okay. Well, out of all, but that's what I'm saying, because there's one or two people who are strong in their opinion that way. I feel like everybody else is just kind of like.
I feel like in 2 or 3 messages, one day, one time. It hasn't even been like an ongoing slot.
I feel like it's been at least 3 separate occasions it's been brought up.
Well, luckily we both don't believe in perfect memory, so my memory is more perfect than yours. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, what I want to tell you about family voting.
Yes.
Oh, have you ever heard of priming?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna see to explain it, and then I could even change ChatGPT's voice if you wanted me to. Just FYI. Let's see if I could.
Why do you think I don't like the voice?
Yeah, I think his instructions are to sound more human by using the and stuff like that. But I was gonna ask you about priming. So in some of these sociological studies, they've done research on if you prime somebody for an event, prime as in you prepare them in advance for an event, you could actually dictate what they decide later on. Example, they had an average looking person ask women in the mall for their phone number. And the experiment was they're going to ask the woman for the phone number in front of different stores, in front of the yogurt store, in front of the purse store, in front of the clothes store, in front of, and then there was one store that stood out that significantly had better results if the person asked the good-looking woman for her phone number. And that store was the flower shop. And flowers are supposed to be connected with romance and romantic. So it's this idea is, why is it when you ask somebody something in one setting, they're more likely to say yes than if you ask them in other settings? Or they've done it as websites too. They did the backgrounds with stacks of pennies, and they say, oh, let's see if this persuades them more with no background. And the stacks of pennies made people, again, significantly cheaper options as far as when they would go to do the checkout. And then they were interviewed after to ask if the pennies in the background wallpaper made a difference. They would say no. So you could persuade people without them even knowing they're being persuaded. Or they changed the background to clouds. And then those people significantly chose, statistically significantly chose furniture that was more soft and comfortable. And then again, they did not think that the wallpaper was persuading them, but it seemed to statistically speaking be persuading them in a certain direction. So there's another one where they primed, they created this situation. Again, I get asked ChatGPT to explain any of these situations more thoroughly. So if you want a little more hardcore evidence, but this is all in some psychological persuasion books that I've read in the past for like marketing and business. But this other one was, it's a woman has her phone stolen by a group of guys. She goes up to a man and asks the man if he can help her get her phone back from the group of guys who stole it. And then they found there was one prime that significantly made him more likely to help her confront the guys and get the phone back. And that was if he was asked 2 blocks earlier by somebody else where the street Valentine could be found. And Valentine was supposed to be connected to romance. Romance connected to love. Love connected to the most powerful motivated emotion in the world. So if they primed him, a person in advance, they were more likely to be sacrificial and help a stranger to put in a potentially dangerous situation to get their phone back. So I say all of that. If you're aware of that, you can think about, oh, my vote isn't just my vote. That's why they talk about propaganda. Like, you're thinking, how can I prepare them psychologically in advance before they even get to the voting booth about which things to be triggered about, which things to be thinking about, so that by the time they're voting in the direction we want them to vote in.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important for me to be thinking about, one thing you can do with ChatGPT is you could ask them to give you five reasons to disagree with one perspective. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know the 10 reasons to believe in God. Give me the 10 reasons why I shouldn't believe in God. Give me 10 reasons of why Jesus isn't historically accurate. Give me, these reasons of why the Bible isn't as credible as one would think. So that you at least have those reasons in your back pocket in a conversation so you understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, all I have to say is it makes me hesitant. It makes me wonder what primes have been used on whether my niece is in the group chat or whatever, or like so pumped up. And often if you can ask somebody to steel man the opponent's argument, you can figure out, do they even understand their opponent?
Yeah.
And if not, then okay, they're only moderately informed on the person they happen to be backing anyway.
Yeah.
So, disagree. Buck that.
I think there's people out there who are super educated and know all that kind of stuff, and they still vote the way that they want to vote. Or, they still lean towards one way or another. But, I mean, how can you really know if you don't also know? That's why I felt like the debate was going to clear something up for me, and it really didn't. Because I felt like they were both out there, and they both had no idea.
Who do you think won?
I don't know about that.
I think Kamala won. I think she was more prepared. Her answers.
She could stacked her answers better, probably.
Yeah, she was more polished. So and there's like a lot of things I feel like Trump could have hit, but he didn't hit. So
I felt like they were not answering the questions at all. I felt like they were both asked questions and they were both not answering them. They were just both. They were both doing like going up there and reading essays instead of like genuinely doing like a Q&A.
Did you see any of the memes on Kamala after her interview? I think it was on Friday, and they asked her what she's going to do to help the economy be better, and she was like, "I grew up as a middle class kid," and like people were like clowning and trolling, saying like, "Oh, like we don't care where you grew up, how you grew up, who your mom was, who the neighbor's business had. It's what are you gonna do, not tell me the side anecdote about your background." So people were trolling on that, and they're saying that interview was so much worse than her debate. So she was prepared for the debate and the interview. That's why some people are there's so much talk online about like, okay,
I felt like they were completely doing what I felt like they were asked questions and they just ignored them. They would take them off like a starting point to just go off on a tangent and not answer the question.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Mm.
What the heck?
Okay, where are we at? Back to out of politics and into things that seem to matter. Our kids.
Our kids seem to matter.
All right. What was your relationship like with your parents and siblings?
It just depends on the time in my life. You know, like I felt like I wasn't growing up. I felt like I was a lot closer to like Jared. You know, at one point in time in my life, I felt like Bobs and I were close at certain times in our life. I felt like, you know, you and I are close.
When I inspired you to get my name tattooed on your back?
Absolutely not. I was going to say a curse word, but but I stopped myself.
That's my super ego affecting your id, and your ego decided to not do it.
Yeah. Anyways, so
or was it a super ego of the people? Was it both of our super egos, or was it mainly mine?
It was probably mainly yours.
Mm.
But
you're so nice.
Yeah, because normally I wouldn't care. But yeah, so where was my head at? Oh yeah, so like just depends on the times of my life. You know, like even I felt like I wasn't super close with a lot of y'all for my teenage years. I don't feel like I was close with any of y'all in my teenage years. And then, you know, once I was like 20, then I started getting more close to Pops. I started getting, you know, now Diamond and I are a lot close. Now you and I are a lot close. Jared and I are close too. You know, we talk and stuff like that. But, you know, I feel like my relationship with my siblings has been a lot of change. But like for like my mom and dad, I feel like my relationship has always pretty much been the same. Like I feel like with me and mom, it's always been like I'm super close with her. I love to be around her, even though, you know, I've talked about it several times in the past about how she does get on my nerves sometimes. I've talked about some things that she does that get on my nerves and some things that I've done to get on her nerves. But at the end of the day, I still like enjoy spending time with her. I mean, and not to say that, you know, when you're a teenager, you also go through those phases where you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the grocery store with you, Mom, or I don't want to run errands with you anymore. But, you know, it's not the case so much anymore. So, and then like with my dad, it's always been kind of distant, not as like close-knit as I am with I think everybody else, but like obviously I know my dad loves me, I love my dad, so for us it's been more definitely like father-daughter dynamic. I feel like me and mom is more like friends than like me and my dad is like father-daughter dynamic. So our relationship is more like he says like, watch what you're doing here, don't go there, gives me lectures on things that can kill me all the time, you know, tells me not to do this, goes and catches me when I'm doing bad things, you know. And I feel like he does that like even now, like the other, and don't call me a bad mom for this, but the other day I was walking into the house and Kalel, I was holding him and he kind of threw himself back when I was closing the door. So then as I closed the door, he threw himself back into the door and he hit himself in the head. And well, okay, I hit him. I hit him in the head with the door, okay? And he started screaming and crying and my dad comes out and my dad's getting mad at me. Like, he gets Kalel and then he's like, well, you need to watch what you're doing. Like, whatever, you know, he's yelling at me. And I'm like I'm not 13 anymore, Dad. I'm like, I'm grown up. Like, you don't have to lecture me about all these things. And but I feel like me and him have like the most parent dynamic type of relationship out of like everybody. So I do feel like Diamond, and I think we've talked about it before in the past, like the layers of like how you see like your sibling, like peers. Is that what like we say? Like I feel like we're all more peers now than we have been. Like I feel like in the past Diamond was more like a parental figure and Jared was more like a parental figure, and that's kind of like how I took things more growing up. And maybe even you too a little, but I can't remember too many times like you sitting me down and like lecturing me. Really. But I do know, like, I can think of, like, specific moments where Jared, like, would be like, you can't be doing this. Or Diamond would say, like, you need to watch what you're doing, that way. But, yeah. Yeah, so that's what my relationship... What was your relationship like with your parents and siblings? Yeah, so I think that's what it's pretty much been. I think now we're all friends and enjoying things and everything's fine and dandy. But, it's taken a lot to get here.
Amen. I was pulling up my notes because for me, I think there's been different seasons, and maybe what I explain that it's like now is I think having spent years, I would describe it from a Christian lens, like mission obsessed. And it's like you just think about your family, you think about Jesus, you want wanting your family to be what I think there's absolutely a verse that talks about I wish everybody was what I am, right? And it's just like there is that obsession, and it's like this idea of you're thinking through all kinds of ideas on like, hey, let me serve more, let me love more, let me be kind more, whatever. And that's fine. But I think what I describe it like now is just enjoying whatever's happening around us. And it doesn't have to, like, I think it's more of if people never become what I am or do what I do and do it when I do it and how I do it, I want to enjoy the time I have with the people. So I say all that because I think it's been fun doing things for the sake of love to do them, not because of like, hey, we're inching that much closer to be able to go to church together, or we're inching that much closer to be able to whatever, read the Bible together on whatever, once a week or something like that. Which, again, I still would love to do that in different settings, but I understand people that if that time frame may not come, and that's okay, and let me enjoy the time that I do have. And it's kind of, I think that's kind of the reason I bring it up, because I wonder where my son will be spiritually if he catches the same vision and passion that I had for wanting to help people and wanting to help people be Christians and help them spiritually and help them be strong, help them to get focused, and all of these things that I've had in my life. I've wanted to be, I've tried to pursue in my life, but I've wondered, is there some net negative, not I think it's overall net positive, but there's some things that kind of hinder some of my relationships because I was so focused on this goal, and then did I enjoy enough of different seasons that my family was in. Mm-hmm. So, like, anyway, also all of that to say, if I went with Jetty, I think it's been oriented around T-ball for Mila and being there for Mila and Jackson and meals and text messages, and we talk video games, and we talk wrestling, and we talk basketball. Like that's kind of where the relationship is with him. I think my relationship with my sister, again, with sister and you, there's softball of a connection. There's parenting that's now of a connection now that we have our son, and now that this whole time that Angelita's been pregnant. and it asking her and Alan to be whatever godparents or guardians if something happened to us. All of those things, I think, have bonded us together in this season, and I see that bonded us going forward. Like in which it's kind of interesting too to have made that decision. Now it's like if we're having a party, it's not in my head. It's not just I'm coordinating with Angelita and coordinating with Corzin. But I'm also coordinating with his godparents because his godparents, in my opinion, are mandatory attendees.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, that means we got to think about it well in advance, think about their schedules. So again, you want everybody to be there, but then you say, who are they got to be here and must be here because of who we want them to be if something ever happened to us.
Yeah.
So all that to say is, I think, with you, we do the pod, we do softball, we text more, we interact there. We have meals together. Poppy's are probably a little bit more distant right now, and we have a good time when we're around each other.
Yeah.
But we don't have a consistent time when we're together. Then I have my 3 siblings from my dad's side, which we haven't been around them enough with Troy, Allison, and Brandis, so we don't connect as much. But every now and then, like I'll interact with Troy, my brother on that side. So I told him about my son arriving and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
All of that to say, I think it's each relationship is unique. Me and Mom, I think that's a really special relationship. I think so lucky, so blessed to have the relationship that I have with her. I think she could tell me virtually anything about any topic in disagreeing with me, but I know it comes from a place of love. And that's really special to have as a parent, knowing that they could tell you anything, even if you disagree, but this is a person who loves me.
Yeah. She's never going to tell you something like ill intent. Like, like when I tell everybody that I want the plot of land to just be a plot of land and no park there.
Have you heard? Are you familiar with the story of King Solomon and the 2 mothers and the 2 babies?
Yeah, where they say cut the baby in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have been fine with the baby being cut in half. Metaphorically for the land, you're like, if I can't have it, we're cutting it in half, and it's gonna stay a big old hole. And King Solomon decided you will not get the land; somebody else would. All right. Anything else? Any other thoughts, questions, or interjections on relationships with parents and siblings?
No, other than I think, that they're important. Like, I think it's important.
And I think even in becoming a dad, having a baby shower, I mentioned this last week, but in a different context, like you decorating the stuff, Dime doing hosting and planning and cleaning and preparing for the baby shower, Jetty and Jeanette, them helping us by buying the crib, which I was like, what? Like there's so much support. I almost want to tell people, hey, you ain't got to do this. Like almost don't, because again, there's a self-sufficient, mindset that I think is healthy and helpful, but it's like, it's unique to be able to have other people doing things for you. Like people radically inconveniencing themselves for you is
crazy,
is intense, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it makes me that much more grateful. Like, so Mila's party is this coming up Saturday, and normally, hey, we do a gift. But I was like, you know what? Like, let me offer, because I don't know if you've noticed this, or if you've crossed this yet, but sometimes when somebody's having an event, like I'll offer money, and people are hesitant about like an amount, or they're more likely to respectfully decline money for an event. But then if I offer to bring a specific dish, which the cost could be, whatever, $30, $40. They wouldn't ask for $30-$40, but when I offered to bring a dish, then they're like, okay, yeah. So I was like, okay, let me bring 3-4 pounds of chicken, shredded chicken, and then 3-4 pounds of cilantro lime rice to the party. So that's for me, just going, all right, what's a different way that I can love and help them during this time? Because there's some of the love that you guys have showed me that I just want to be able to show love back.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Next question.
Yep.
You want to read it? Number 18.
How did you handle stress and find balance in your life? So I guess I'll start with this one. So I have spent quite a bit of time like trying to figure out like certain psychological reasons for things.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've spent time trying to figure out certain psychological reasons for things. So like the development that you go through when you're in your like pediatric years, so like when you're young, I think it has a lot to do with like your brain development. I know this sounds like way off topic, but like I think this is what I'm trying to like get to. I think that growing up, I was I had a lot of support, like I think I was breastfed as a child. I slept in mom's bed for years and years and years, like I'm real comfortable. I was real comfortable and I was real like coddled, I guess is the correct word to say. Like I was comforted a lot. So I think it's helped me a lot in like my older years, like as an adult, deal with stressful situations because internally I know what it feels like to calm myself down from stressful situations. So like I was having a conversation with the girls and they said that they remember like anytime I would get upset or I would get angry or I'd get up, like I'd have like problems with, my emotions, I would just go and like breastfeed and it would make me feel like in a better mood. So I think that
You would go and breastfeed Kalo?
No, me as a child when I was growing up, when I was little.
The major problems you had as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old.
Like the major issues that I had as a child, I would go and breastfeed and then it would calm me down. And I think those things have gradually helped me build into, as an adult, knowing what it feels like to transition myself from being super stressed out to like calming down. I do know sometimes I do overdo it and I get crazy. Not super crazy, but like I overdo it as far as like my emotional side. But I feel like calming myself down is a lot easier because I had a strong foundation to be able to do that. So that's it. So I think that's how I handle stress.
Do you think your husband would describe you as a calm person? Like, hey, you handle stress well, and
you might be surprised to hear this, but Jeremy does think I handle stress well. He thinks that I handle stress so well that I just ignore it, and I'm like, it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's that I can't physically outwardly like freak out all the time. Because the situation is so stressful, I know that me freaking out is only going to make things worse. So, like, we'll be in stressful situations, and I'm just like, woosah, like, I'm all calm about it. And he's like, you don't even care. Like, it doesn't even matter to you about this whole thing that's going on. And I'm like, no, it really does matter to me. But I have to calm myself so that we can find a solution and figure out what we're going to do, But, yeah. And I think that, like, that helps. And I'm saying, like, obviously you're going to come into times where something big happens, Something big happens and that's obviously going to freak you out. And I think those are the times when I have personally freaked out. Like, when something big happens or a big problem arises and then I'm like, I'm getting super angry. But I think for the most part, like, people in traffic don't bother me. Strangers being rude doesn't bother me. Like day-to-day inconveniences, those things don't bother me because I'm like a duck. I let it slide right off my back. So in case you've never heard that metaphor, my mom used to always say, do you want to be a duck or do you want to be a cat? So like she would say, if you pour water on a cat, it hisses and gets all mad. But if you pour water on a duck, it just lets the water slide right off the back. So I always think about just being a duck.
Interesting.
So, how do I find balance in my life? Balance, like, I guess that's it. That's how I find balance. I try to let as many things slide as I possibly can.
Oh, sorry.
So that I can chill.
Okay, the way you deal with anxiety, I'm glad you really mentioned those things. What's the word I could use to you if I'm in your presence and you seem to be acting not the way you just described yourself?
You definitely don't want to tell me anything. absolute biggest pet peeve would be when I was like, I guess I was like 8 or 9, and I would be in a bad mood and have a bad attitude, and mom would say, do you need to go to the restroom to wash that bad attitude off your face? And I would be like, she's like, go rinse some water on your face and maybe it'll wash the bad attitude away.
Well,
and I would be like this.
So, no, I think it's interesting because I think, and I explained this before, there is a tendency I have, and let me talk about my own weakness real quick, maybe vulnerable, is when I have given speeches and I don't have anecdotes, and so like my anecdotes will only be whatever I think of on the fly, they often will be painting me in the best picture possible.
Yeah.
And I can understand how some audience members could see that as obnoxious. Oh,
This is the best guy ever.
I know, right? Oh, he told the story of people admiring him. He told the story, I was like, okay, like, what's going on here? But then I find myself, so somebody is presenting well, that they're presenting that they are always calm under pressure, all these things. And then, of course, as your brother, I've been around you with softball, I've been around with you, Jeremy, I'm going like, part of me, I've seen your interaction with mom, I'm doing all these things, I'm going like, I don't know who Aimee's describing right now. I don't know if it's the one that I've seen, but maybe over the last 2 months that I haven't been around her in as many social situations, she has radically changed how she deals with stress. Like maybe she doesn't cuss out Jeremy anymore. Maybe she doesn't have these battles with mom anymore. So anyway, all that to say is, I'm gonna assume the way you describe yourself is accurate, and then so if I ever happen to encounter you in the wild, and
so I do think, yes, I get into those, like, I get crazy, I get upset kinds of moments, but I don't think they're as bad as I want them to be. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm really holding back. but I don't know if that's how everybody else feels.
Right. When you were speaking, there's this concept called price anchoring. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's relevant with marketing. So sometimes what you would do is, like, let's say you and I, whatever, we had a budget for buying something and I wanted to spend a whole lot of money. You wanted to spend very, very little. So I would tell you, let's say I wanted to buy a new camera for the studio. And let's say you and I were investing in it together and I wanted to spend a lot of money. I wanted to buy $100 camera. Let's in this example. Or let's say I'll make it super realistic. I wanted to buy a $1,000 camera.
Yeah.
But I knew you wouldn't be supportive. So I'm going to tell you, I really want to buy this $4,000 camera. And you're like, no, what? And then I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. I can spend less money and I'll buy this $1,000 camera instead. So I anchored you high.
Yeah.
And then when you thought we were settling, we were actually selling at the number at the price I actually wanted to spend.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat manipulative, but again, it's a psychological thing that works. So it's the same thing with negotiation. Like you start at one number knowing you're not going to stay at the number, you're going to go to a different number.
Yeah.
And so, mom does it all the time. They do it in real estate. They do it in all kinds of negotiations.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing that up is when you anchor. So I'm talking about the emotional anchor now. So if you say somebody who doesn't handle their stress well is dish throwing and stabbing people and doing all these other things, then the person who does, okay, they're not doing that, then they're like, whatever, they're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say is, I am going to believe that you are as mature and calm and collected and at peace as you described yourself. But if I happen to see you in the wild, is there, maybe I can use, what did you say? Wash your face? I go like this to you. But
I don't feel like I'm in that bad of a mood if I can laugh right after. Like, I don't feel like I'm letting the stress consume me if afterwards I can just be chilling. So, like, yeah, I can have, like, little popcorn moments.
Popcorn? Cool. Again, I'm not here to blast you in front of our...
I'm trying to think. Like, no, because you're right. You are right about that. So I forget.
I'm right about what?
That, like, I have overdone it in the past.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I think about that. So I'm trying to think.
So we're contextualizing this around your kids because you don't want your kids to be like, Why is mom talking like she's all like
Tranquil.
She's like, oh, she must have changed since then.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, Kalel and brother who is named in our minds and in our hearts offline, but it may be not publicly named yet. If you know her to be a little bit not as calm as she described, I know what you're talking about. All right. Anyway.
But yeah, here we are. I did actually yell at Kalal yesterday, but that's because he got on top of a teeny tiny table.
So you're blaming him for him being able to do something on his own? He was by himself?
Well, he was playing right next to me. I mean, I got him down right away, but he got up there fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, he knows that table, he knocks that table over all the time. So I'm like, why would you get on top of something that you knock over all the time?
How old is he?
He's a year and 2 months.
So he memorizes every piece of furniture and the amount of weight that it can handle, and when and how it topples over. Yes, he knows that.
Well, obviously he knew how to distribute his weight because he wasn't toppling over. I was so mad. I said, what are you doing on there? I know he knew he was doing something wrong because he started laughing.
Seemed a little reductive, but...
Well, he started laughing and then ran away.
Yeah.
I said, get back over here right now.
Nice. Okay, we could circle back to that concept in the wild when we encounter your interactions. Okay, back to me. Stress and balance. I think about. Okay, this is something I looked up actually earlier because there's a passage that says, carry each other's burdens, and this way you fulfill the law of Christ. So there's this idea like we carry each other's burdens. So the implication of such an idea that we carry one another's burdens, the visual that I've often used and visualized as this passage is every human being carries a mountain on their back.
Mm-hmm.
And if this text says carry each other's burdens, meaning find a way to get under that mountain with them.
Yeah.
And it also means the implication is if I have something burdening me or stressing me or worrying me, find a way to not carry the burden alone and allow the weight to be distributed. And so something that's really fascinating in this way, and I looked this up on ChatGPT earlier today, which was oftentimes just 2 versus 1, whether it's arms, legs, horses, and other mechanical devices can carry much more than just 2 times their weight. Example, whether it's how much you can squat with 1 leg versus how much you can squat with 2 legs, it's not just double. It's multiplied over and then some. How much you can lift with 2 arms is not just double what you can lift with 1 arm. It's often more than just doubled because of the synergy, because of them supporting one another. So like just even what we see in life is that when 2 or more are helping to carry a burden, it's so much more light for the 2 versus just the 1. Like if you're doing it by yourself, so to me, and I apply that again for my son who's thinking about carrying a burden, when you're carrying it by yourself, it's going to feel so much more heavy. You bring 1 person in, you bring 2, maybe 3 people in to be like your innermost circle so that they could carry the burden together so you could pray about it and go through it. I think naturally when something embarrassing happens, like you almost don't want to tell anybody. Like, hey, you lost a job. When I've lost a job, I don't want to tell anybody. But then sometimes I'll go, oh, no. I feel the temptation to not tell anybody. And I don't want that being a burden to me to like hold this in. So I'm going to tell people about it. I'm going to tell people I feel embarrassed about it and I feel ashamed about it. So as my son is thinking about, hey, how do you deal with stress? I've been blessed to have that passage and then to have people in my life who will get under the mountain with me. So I'm not carrying it on my own. So I could pray about it and have people that are really supportive and helping me through whatever burden I'm carrying.
Yeah.
Balance in your life. If I define divine balance, I'm not sure I'm confident I don't believe in it. Balance, if we defined it as if we define it just as time, Like, if I have 16 hours of being awake every day, is it a perfect balance between exercise and work? Is that 8 hours of exercise and 8 hours of work? No. Or is it exercise, work, and family? Is it 5 or 5 hours and whatever 20 minutes each? I go, that's time balance. But so often I think balance isn't and shouldn't be the goal if you're thinking about it from a time perspective. So I would encourage my son to think through what he thinks should be balanced and maybe challenge that notion of, because like I've had friends that were like in law school and like they didn't really go to church on Wednesdays during that season. And again, that's good and appropriate. And I've learned that as well. Like I've had t-ball games. I'm going to go serve with my brother, serving my niece in the community as opposed to be at church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that whatever? Is that balance? I was like, no, I think I'm serving community. I'm serving God in a different way. All of that to say that is, finding balance as far as like, what do I think is an ideal balance in working through that idea, maybe shifting my beliefs on balance has really helped me to not get so overburdened and worried that I don't have something done enough.
Yeah.
There is seasons where I was closer to my friends than my family. This season I'm certainly closer to my family than my friends. There's times, like I would say right now I'm completely out of balance. The amount of time I give with my son and my wife, nothing even compares to that balance. It's not like I'm going, oh no, I need to spend whatever, half my day in church and half my day with my son and my wife. It's like, no, it's like virtually all of my day is either with my son or my wife or doing things for them, or I will go exercise and take care of me, but it's also taking care of me is another way to take care of other people as far as my longevity and my health in life. That would be my perspective. Any thoughts, disagreements, interjections by you?
Yeah, when I think about balance, I don't know if I necessarily always think about it in time. Like, I don't think about balance as time. I think balance, like, are you balanced as a person as far as, like, just enough tranquility and challenge and stress and whatever, those kinds of things. But I guess if you want to think about it in time, that's fine also.
So you're saying thinking about it in other ways, not necessarily equal time, but...
Yeah, like thinking about it in like, I think you've said like different things that you're doing in your life. Like, are you balancing like, your attention to, your work, your attention to different things. But yeah, I guess it would be, time.
I said, but you brought up an analogy in my head, which was, I don't know enough about like pH balance in a pool. Is it pH?
Yeah.
Is it just one measurement or several measurements that have to be at different marks?
Yeah, it's several of them. So it's probably like 6 different little.
Oh, see, maybe again, I think speaks to your point, which is balancing the pH levels are not equal. It's not about being equal. It's about each one having a certain mark.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to what you're talking about. Would you say? Would you
yeah.
agree? Which I think I like that too. I think that's where should something be, and then but the question I think is, should something be like that? So I mentioned it last week. They recommended in the doctor's office not doing crowds for 3 months.
Yeah.
That would be okay. Again, that's the idea of like no church for 3 months. And as far as in crowds, smaller settings or online or whatever it is, cool and fine. So that is that would be, I suppose that level, again, that pH level of that one category would be lower in this setting.
Yeah.
But then maybe higher in other settings.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts.
Okay. Number 19. What experiences or travels had the most profound impact on you?
Ooh. Let's see. I've done a lot of traveling, like, with my family, like, road trips. I think that has played a big old part in my ability to be... One, I'm a little bit more patient when it comes to driving, which is great. But also, like, I'm used to figuring things out as I go. So I like if I'm missing something or if I don't have something, it's not that big of a deal. So I think, I think that constantly like picking up and going, and especially the way that like mom travels, like she doesn't plan anything. She kind of just gets up and goes and figures it out when she gets there. I think that has played a big impact on, one, I like to plan things out a lot now. And then two, even if I do have a plan and it doesn't work out, it's kind of like, oh, we could figure it out. We can go with the flow and figure out whatever else we're going to do. So I think that has made a difference too. Travels as far as like...
Is there any individual experiences, any individual travels that moved you? Again, if you're talking about imprinting, you know, again, it's one thing to say, hey, all my travels, but it's one thing to say this one trip or this one experience really shifted me.
Ooh. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's like one specific thing. I think it is like an accumulation. Also, like hearing everybody else's experiences from the same trips that like I've gone on with them. So like hearing, you know, how mom felt on a certain trip or how Diamond felt on a certain trip or how you have felt on a certain trip, you know, all of us going together has made me realize like, oh, I think it is important to like one, adjust and kind of try not to like get overwhelmed, because I think I remember one time like when we all went to South Padre, it was like we were all arguing a lot. It was like we had a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, y'all were. I'm just kidding.
I thought you were there. But yeah, so if we're, you know, doing those things, even like thinking about like arguing, having like all slept in a small hotel on the way, or like when we're there, like having certain bad experiences. Like I remember one time I was stung by a jellyfish at the beach. So it's like all these different like negative things that have happened. Yes. But am I like...
Did you do the pee?
Definitely not. Did not do that. But, you know, having all those experiences, I think it's an accumulation kind of thing. Because I feel like I've had some really good experiences, especially like traveling and having fun and like trying to enjoy myself, especially now that I've gotten older. I feel like when I'm moving and going different places, I try to really enjoy myself instead of like, I do know I would get upset a lot in the past when traveling and like things didn't go my way. So now I'm like, oh, it's okay. We'll figure it out on trips. So I think it's been an accumulation of like gradually getting okay with constantly moving around. And like even like now, like so Kalel and I travel, you know, to go to the restaurant all the time. We go to see Jeremy all the time. We're here. So it's like everywhere we're going, we're constantly like moving. And I've been like that, you know, for years, you know. I worked in San Marcos and I had an apartment in San Marcos. I had an apartment here. I was living in New Braunfels at a different point in time. So it's like I'm very used to like constantly moving, constantly going different places. And I've lived in so many different places, like even just around San Antonio, that I feel like for me traveling, and I don't know if it's like the same kind of concept or the same kind of idea, but it is like I'm so used to just like getting up and going that I feel like it's made me a lot more willing and able to adapt whenever, you know, something comes along. Like I know like Jeremy, whenever we will have like softball games or we'll do like a family thing, every single time we're done, he's like, can we please just go straight home? Like I don't want to go eat. I don't want to sit and talk. As soon as the game is over, can we just cut and run? And I'm like, well, I want to see what everybody's going to talk about. You know, I'm like real, like go with the flow kind of.
Yeah.
So like not only traveling, like, you know, to exotic places or to do great things, but like even just traveling like in my day-to-day, like normal life. Like I come places and I'm fully willing to figure out where things are going to go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes. I will say traveling. I'm not gonna go the traveling route for this question. I'm going to go the route of experience, and it's the experience of listening while believing the other person is better than me, and there's a difference. Like, and the reason I'm bringing this up, I think this is really important to me because, and like observing things in a way that's like, oh, this way is potentially better than the way I do it and the way that we do it, and what are the implications. I'll give you a few examples. So so many answers are naturally they're church oriented, or there's like Christian lens, and naturally I have a biblical worldview and all of that. So there's one passage that says, Jesus is speaking, he's going, he separates the sheep and the goats. And when he separates the sheep and the goats to the sheep, he tells them, in the parable, he says, I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was naked, you gave me clothes. I was a stranger, you invited me in. I was sick, you looked after me. And I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And they're like almost confused, going, hold on, like, when did we see you in these 6 situations in life? When were you hungry? When were you thirsty? When were you naked? When were you a stranger? When were you sick? When were you in prison? And he's going, whatever you did for the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. And they're going, oh, and so Jesus has come into eternal life that's been prepared for you. And then to the goats who are whatever on the left, and he tells them, cursed are you, and you're going to be going to the eternal flames, right? And he ultimately tells them, I was hungry, you didn't, and then he goes, I was hungry, you didn't give me food, thirsty, you didn't give me drink, I was naked, you didn't give me clothes, I was a stranger, you didn't invite me in, I was sick, you didn't look after me, I was in prison, you didn't come to visit me. They also are confused. Hold on, when did we not see you, the king? And did not do these things for you. He said, whatever you did not do for the least of these brothers of mine, you did not do for me. So you didn't feed me when I was hungry. So we went down the line. Anyway, I say all of that because it's such a powerful passage, and it's motivated me going, okay, I want to be somebody who's doing things for people that are the least in the community, or like the people you wouldn't consider the most important people. And I bring it up because I remember when I was getting trained to do prison stuff, and then the prison orientation was at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was hosting it. So they're hosting it with a bunch of Catholic people there. And for some time in my life, I was wondering, like, are Catholics, the legitimate question is, are they lesser Christians or are they not Christians, right? Like that's a legitimate thought. But then you see the number of Catholics that were doing this prison orientation. You think about that passage that Jesus said that people who go to prison are going to visit him. And then you go, this group not only might be doing more than I'm doing in prison, but they might be doing more than my group is doing. And what is that implication? So then going to this orientation with eyes and ears willing to see somebody doing things better than you and allowing that to teach you. So I think now I'm more hesitant to be like, have an arrogant, condemning attitude toward other Christian groups. Like, again, I have a Baptist friend. He was talking about how he has his sister's kids living with him. Like, they're taking care of different kids in the family, and it's like orphan style, like doing things. And that was before my wife and I had our son. So like we're here in our 2,900 square foot house. It's just us two. He's over here using his house to serve his family and to help people. And I go, can I really say that I'm a better Christian than this guy?
Yeah.
All of that to say is it's made me look at different Christian groups who I might have looked at as less than, or even not even Christian, or not even enough, and then gone, you know what? I'm not convinced that I'm above anybody or my group's above anybody, and therefore I'm not trying to save them to get into our group. If they're not satisfied with their group, they want to come to our group, that's fine. But that's really shaped me, had a powerful impact on me. So now it's like, I want to do better in listening to other people and believing that they could be much better and they might be a great example for me to follow and imitate, and then their group might also be great as well. So that's been the profound impact. I wonder how my son is gonna navigate again this Christian journey, because it's so common within Christian culture to think their group is the ones that are like really good, healthy, and strong and right, and then they think the other groups are not right or lost altogether, and then this their group thinks that. So then we all do that to each other, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the lesson is to not do that, and it's so much more enjoyable to walk through life not believing that. Not only are we responsible for saving lost people, but then we also are responsible for recruiting other Christian, maybe saved people to join us. So it's so much more enjoyable to walk through life, not feeling like you are trying to save every group that you encounter.
Yeah. That makes sense. I also think that, like, me personally, I feel like there's no one right way. Like, I think that everybody has to approach things differently. Like, Mom said this to me the other day and it made me laugh. But it's a saying that everybody knows. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So to me, it's kind of a similar thing. I feel like everybody's kind of doing this similar things, getting to the same area, but they're going about it in a different way. So I think it's same concept. No dead cat,
No dead cat. No dead
Same
cat.
concept without there having to be a dead cat.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yepperoni.
All right. Closing story, closing encouragement to your son, closing words of love, of uplifting. And maybe that's what I've been wrestling with, how we can close our episodes better. There's something more like helpful. Is there cariño? Is there something you want to tell your sons as we close this episode, as a direct, it's like camera, you could look directly in that camera. I'll give you the camera, and then I'll go after you, or I can go first, either way.
As of right now, I'm being beaten up from the inside. And I just want to let you know, it better be worth it.
All right. For me, to my son, to the course, and I want to tell you, man, this time, like, I think we're going to lose track of how many diapers of yours that we change, and how many times you fall asleep in my arms, how many times you fall asleep on my chest, and how many times we just get that. And naturally, my hope is that we're able to build so many more memories together. And if we, for whatever, something happens to me and we don't get that, I just want you to know that all of those times have meant so much to me, to be able to bond with you, connect with you, carry you, hold you. Again, like, have your hand wrapped around my finger. I got a bunch of pictures that people could show you. I think the good thing about me sharing pictures with you, with some of my friends and family, is that you can see us bonding and together, you hanging out, you on my lap, you in my hands, you in my arms. And it's such a special thing. So I want you to know that. And but the idea is that we'll still be around and talking about all the special memories in your first 3 weeks of life here. So love you. And I think that's all we got for today.